So, in biopsychology, we're going to study the nature and scope of biopsychology first. In biopsychology, the scientific study of the anatomy and biochemical processes in the physiology and nervous system is known as neuroscience. Like neuroscience is the scientific study of the anatomy, biochemical processes, and the physiology of the nervous system. So, neuroscience, in neuroscience, we have a closely related field which is called the biopsychology, which draws information from it to study human and animal behavior. So, biopsychology, in this biopsychology, हम human and animal behavior पढ़ते हैं. इसको हम साइको बायोलॉजी भी बोलते हैं और बिहेवियर बायोलॉजी और बिहेवियर न्यूरोसाइंस भी बोलते हैं. इन दिस यूनिट वी डिस्कस अबाउट दिस रिलेटेड ब्रांच ऑफ न्यूरोसाइंस. हम इस यूनिट में बायोसाइकोलॉजी डिस्कस करने वाले. सो दो बायोलॉजिकल अप्रोच थी जो जिसमें मतलब ह्यूमन की स्टडी करनी थी, एनिमल बिहेवियर, हम उसको बायोसाइकोलॉजी नाम दे चुके हैं. द बायोसाइकोलॉजिस्ट ट्राई टू इन्वेस्टिगेट scientifically how biological process interact with cognition, emotion and other psychological processes. We can trace a long history of the study of biology of behavior, but biopsychology as a separate discipline of neuroscience emerged in the 20th century. D.O. Habs, Canadian psychologist, seminal publication, The Organization of Behavior in 1949 in the field of psychology and neuroscience. वो जो कैनेडियन साइकोलॉजिस्ट थे D.O. हेब्स, ओके, इन्होंने बायोसाइकोलॉजी को बहुत डीपली स्टडी करा था. द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ऑफ बिहेवियर, इन्होंने जिस पे काम करा था उस टॉपिक का नाम, इन द फील्ड ऑफ साइकोलॉजी एंड न्यूरोसाइंस, पेव द वे फॉर फ्यूचर इन्वेस्टिगेशन फॉर न्यूरल फाउंडेशन. बेसिकली इन्होंने फाउंडेशन प्रोवाइड करी थी. हैब ने ये प्रपोज करा था इज बीइंग अप्लाइड इन द प्रेजेंट टाइम इन द फील्ड्स ऑफ इंजीनियरिंग, रोबोटिक्स. हैब ने जो उस समय बातें कही थी वो आज हम यूज़ करते हैं काफ़ी ज़्यादा फील्ड्स में, जैसे इंजीनियरिंग में, रोबोटिक्स में, साइकोलॉजी में, न्यूरोसाइंस में और न्यूरो फिजियोलॉजी में भी. Biopsychology thus draws information from neurosciences and uses the information to study human and animal behavior. It may be better understood as that neuroscience is a team effort and biopsychologist is a part of these team. न्यूरोसाइंस में मतलब बहुत ज़्यादा टीम की नीड पड़ती है और बायोसाइकोलॉजिस्ट उस टीम के पार्ट है. A biopsychologist may draw information from other disciplines of neuroscience and apply it to the study of behavior. Few of the disciplines of neuroscience that are of particular relevance for biopsychology. तो बेसिकली आप समझ रहे हैं, मतलब न्यूरोसाइंस एक फील्ड है जिसमें बायोसाइकोलॉजिस्ट काम करते हैं मिलकर, और बायोसाइकोलॉजी न्यूरोसाइंस के अंडर आती है. मतलब न्यूरोसाइंस में वी स्टडी बायोसाइकोलॉजी. देन वी हैव न्यूरो अनाटमी, ये तो स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ नर्वस सिस्टम की स्टडी है. देन वी हैव न्यूरोकेमिस्ट्री, दिस इज अ स्टडी ऑफ केमिकल एस्पेक्ट्स ऑफ नर्वस एक्टिविटी. Then we have neuropathology, it is a study of pathology disorder. Then we have neuroendocrinology, it is a study of interaction between the nervous system and endocrine. Then we have neuropharmacology, it is a study of the impact of drugs on neural activity. Then we have neurophysiology, it studies the function and activities of the nervous system. So it may be rightly said that the field of biopsychology is diverse and it is one of the branches that contributes to neurosciences. Okay, biopsychology is the branch of neuroscience. The research conducted in biopsychology is also from varied perspectives. Biopsychological research is conducted on human or non-human participants. The most common non-human research participants are mice, rats, followed by cats, dogs and primates. There are three advantages in conducting research on non-human participants. The first being that the brain and the behavior of non-human participants is less complex as compared to human participants. So they conduct experiments on non-human participants. Thus, the basic fundamental brain behavior interactions may be revealed. Secondly, conducting research on such a group leads to comparative approach where biological processes of different species may be compared. Thirdly, it is easy to conduct research on laboratory animals rather than human participant due to ethical reasons. Yeah, of course. That is, there are fewer ethical constraints while we conduct research on animals, though the research in psychology and its branches are all governed by strict ethical guidelines formed by organizations like American Psychological Association. Guidelines for ethical conduct in the care and the use of non-human animals in research and Indian Council for Medical Research ICMR guidelines for biomedical research in India. Research in biopsychology may be a pure research or applied research, and the study is based on empirical investigation with applications for the society. The research can be done using an experimental approach or non-experimental approach or case studies. The scope is to study or understand the basic behavior. Behavior changes are primarily due to disruptions in various brain regions and neural circuits. This may happen because of head injury. Secondly, learning, exercise, etc. also changes the neural structures. So, how it produces a corresponding change in behavioral functions can be studied with the help of various research methods that are used to understand the functioning of the mental processes by examining the biological systems. Biopsychology also aims to understand aspects like the evolution of brain and its influence on behavior. Okay, the development of the nervous system across the lifespan, which areas of the brain are involved in sensation, perception, memory, movement, the role of brain in emotional expression and regulation, language and cognition, and how the behavioral change occurs after brain damage or trauma. This all comes under biopsychology. It also seeks to understand the role of genetics and endocrine system in maintenance of homeostasis and enhancing the health and well-being of people suffering from various neurological disorders. There has been some very significant research related to brain behavior interactions that have been awarded Nobel Prize. You must have read about Ivan Pavlov. This is a Russian physiologist in the course Introduction to Psychology. Pavlov was Nobel Prize winner in 1904 for his research on physiology of digestion. Okay. Pure research. It is also known as basis of fundamental research. It is conducted without any prior aim or goal. Pure research, there is no prior aim or goal. It is exploratory in nature and driven by intuition or interest. So this is just for the intuition or personal research. Then we have applied research. It is conducted with a prior aim. Specifically, it starts with the aim to solve an existing problem. Thus, it is descriptive in nature and has practical implication. This type of research is mainly conducted in technology, medicine, agriculture. Okay, so now we have six main divisions such as physiological psychology, psychopharmacology, neuropsychology, psychophysiology, cognitive neuroscience, and comparative psychology. These approaches are overlapping, and many biopsychologists follow more than one approach. Physiological psychology. Physiological psychology uses controlled experimental conditions to stimulate the brain and study its effect on behavior. Okay, and physiological psychology uses controlled experimental conditions to stimulate the brain and study its effect on behavior. Physiology में we study behavior. It involves direct manipulation and recording of the brain by primarily using surgical or electrical stimulation on animals for research. Their aim is to develop theories about how neural mechanisms control behavior. And the psychopharmacologists uses drugs to stimulate neural system and then observe their behavior or effects on behavior. This purpose is to study the interaction between brain and behavior, but majorly the experiments are applied in nature, focusing on developing therapeutic drugs and reduce drug use. Then we have neuropsychology. Neuropsychologists study the patients who have had some head injury or trauma and are suffering from brain damage. The neuropsychological test helps to diagnose the impairments and work out a suitable treatment for dealing with it. This subdiscipline uses case studies and quasi experimental studies of patients with brain damage caused due to disease, accident, or neurosurgery. The focus on these studies is cerebral cortex, the most prominent part of mammalian brain, which consists of cellular layers on the outer surface of cerebral hemispheres. So neuropsychology is the study of damage caused around the cerebral cortex, which is the most prominent part of the mammalian brain, and it has cellular layers on the outer surface of cerebral hemispheres. Then we have psychophysiology. Psychophysiologists use non-invasive techniques, the physiological activities recorded from the surface of the body, to examine the relationship between the physiological activity and psychological processes as attention, learning, memory, emotions in human participants. Various measures that are used are like scalp electroencephalogram, muscle tension, eye movement, galvanic skin response, GSR, heart rate, blood pressure, and pupil dilation. In this, we use non-invasive techniques. Okay, cognitive neuroscience. Cognitive neuroscientists study the neural basis of cognition and higher order cognitive processes like thinking, memory, attention, as well as perceptual processes. Hence, human participants are taken for research. Cognitive involves thinking, memory, and attention. So, here we take human participants. The techniques used are non-invasive. Functional brain imaging is the main method of recording the brain activity. Here we use functional brain imaging. Then we have comparative psychology. In comparative psychology, study the behavior of different species to understand their behavior from evolutionary, genetic, and adaptation perspective. Behavior is studied in either laboratory condition or it may be observed in its natural environment. The latter is known as ethological research. In this, we study the behavior of different species to understand the evolutionary behavior changes, so genetic behavioral changes and adaptation perspectives.